You know, it has been ages since I played Ultimate Spider-Man. You know, that game is like based on the actual Ultimate Spider-Man comic book run. And I think out of every comic book game that's ever come out, this is the one that is almost quite literally a comic book game. You got characters leaping off the pages sometimes. And while there was a lot that I remembered about this game as a kid, there's also quite a bit that I had forgotten since, when did this game come out? Oh yeah, okay, 19 years ago. I mean, yeah, it's no wonder that I forgot so much of the game. Granted, there's like key moments that'll never leave my brain. I can't believe they let you do this in a Spider-Man game. Venom's suit must be fed. Oh boy.
Help me.
Oh my God, look at the balloon. But it's been so long, I needed to jump back in and re-experience it. Plus, we are so spoiled with the amount of comic book games that are either out now or are on the way. But does this near 2-decade-old gem of a Spider-Man game hold up against some of the juggernauts leading the superhero gaming genre? Is Ultimate Spider-Man still the best Spider-Man game? Are you hitting the like button right now in anticipation for this retro review? Let's find out.
Godspeed, Spider-Man.
And I mean, this is a game that's not just a really cool open world Spidey game. It's a comic that you play with the art that you remember from the original Ultimate Spider-Man run. The story is super engaging. Right from frame one, you see the conflict between Spider-Man and Venom, and I love that it's something that carries throughout the entirety of the game. Venom is a towering threat to Spider-Man, one that also affects him mentally, and while we might fight enemies throughout the game that may seem bigger, like Rhino, and badder, like Silver Sable, you can tell that Venom is still the unintended ultimate threat. And I mean, Ultimate Spider-Man, it's easily one of the coolest looking Spider-Man games ever made, with a beautiful art style, of course mimicking the look from the actual comics as drawn by Mark Bagley. It has a timeless, cel-shaded style, and every frame from each cutscene is a love letter to the comics that inspired this game. It really was made with the purpose of honoring the original Ultimate Spider-Man run, right down to each new mission starting off with a comic cover. You can even collect actual Ultimate Spider-Man comic covers throughout the open world. With all that said though, a lot of what's great about Ultimate Spider-Man goes far beyond just the amazing visuals. Ultimate Spider-Man released after the critically acclaimed movie tie-in to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. So of course they followed in that game's footsteps. When it comes to the traversal, they added little tweaks like the ability to climb up your webs. And while I do remember this feature, I never really understood why everyone kept requesting it to be added into the Insomniac Spider-Man games. That is until I jumped back and played Ultimate Spider-Man, and now I totally agree. We need the ability to climb up the webs. It adds so much to the traversal. There's also indicators in combat for when you're fighting enemies to know how close they are to being taken down. And a really fun mechanic, or maybe a frustrating one depending on the encounter, is that when you knock out an enemy, you actually have to make sure they're webbed up. If you don't do that in time, well, then they get back up and they're right back in the fight. This means that knocking out an enemy is just the beginning. You have to do a lot more than just that to make sure you complete a combat encounter. And while this might not be anything close to the Insomniac Spider-Man games and the combat that we have in those games nowadays, the combat in Ultimate Spider-Man still holds up. It's a really fluid system with fun aerial attacks, a quick and agile Spider-Man, which makes it effortless to bounce from one enemy to another. I was quite surprised with how well it held up, even 19 years later. When you get to the later combat tours though, or just when you're in the late game, I mean, some of these enemies are bullet sponges or punch sponges, I don't know. They eat up a lot of damage, and it can be quite frustrating to take them down. But on top of the super fun web swinging, the engaging combat, the amazing visuals, this was the first game that really let you feel the power of playing as Venom. Long before Insomniac gave us their own take on that level of strength. And they do have one leg up still on Insomniac with this game, in that it actually features Venom in an open world setting. Ultimate Spider-Man is as much a Venom game as it is a Spider-Man game. So with that, when you play as Venom, you get to traverse through the city, leap over tall buildings, throw cars, wreak havoc, and also this. I have one minor gripe though. I mentioned in a video recently that if Insomniac were to make their own Venom game, they should incorporate web swinging, or symbiote swinging if you will, and that should all be part of Venom's traversal. That is for me the biggest problem with the traversal for Venom in this game. As cool as it is that he's ripping chunks into walls when he crawls up them, or how far and high he can jump, it's just never as fun as it is to swing around the city as Spider-Man. And there are plenty of moments where you're trying to make that jump from one building to another and you barely miss it. So Insomniac Insomniac, if you're watching this by any chance, and by another chance you might be making a Venom game of your own, we should be able to swing around. I think that would be fun. Besides, it's not like it's a thing that Venom can't do or hasn't done before. The combat, though, as Venom, my goodness, it is brutal. Basic attacks have Venom slashing enemies, or you can use his tendrils for sweeping damage to several enemies at once. The tendril attacks also hit from a much farther distance compared to his regular attacks. And like I said, you can grab and toss cars, sometimes with people still on them. It's visceral, it's violent, and it's exactly what you want if you got to play as Venom in a game. They even set up a fun mini game after you beat the main story, where if you play as Venom, you get to wreak as much havoc as possible, building up points. After you begin your destruction, there are going to be some police that spawn around the map trying to take you down. But the more you destroy the city and attack the civilians, the more points you gain and the tougher the enemies become. It makes it so that you get to enjoy to the absolute fullest playing as Venom in an open world game. And every time you're eliminated, you just start back over from zero and you try to see how many points you can accumulate. It's weirdly addicting. It makes it so that I just want to keep going, see how much farther I can get, how much better I can get with the combat. Oh yeah, and did I forget to mention that you get to fight freaking Wolverine in an earlier mission in the game? In one of the first missions you play as Venom, you grab a motorcycle, throw it through a bar. It turns out it's Wolverine's motorcycle, and then there's a boss battle. God, I miss the days where you can live in a shared universe like this, where Wolverine can just pop up with no additional implications. And don't get me wrong, Insomniac has done a little bit of that. I mean, they had the whole Doctor Strange mission in Marvel Spider-Man 2 that ended up with a fun little Easter egg from Wong, but I really do miss when you can have these other Marvel heroes or characters in general just pop up, and it didn't mean that they're gonna get their own game. They're just in this shared world. I mean, hell, flipping over to Spider-Man, one of the first missions for him has you showing up to Midtown High, and there's the Human Torch. He wants to race you around the city. By the way, can we all admit that these were incredibly frustrating when we were kids? I mean, some of these missions have me wanting to break some controllers. I do love the traversal in this game, and I do love the combat, but when you get to some of the more difficult challenges for either, it exposes how finicky the game can be. And oh my god, especially with the traversal, some of them needing you to jump off walls in order to get the checkpoint. Oh my goodness, it was killing me. And that's me playing now. As a kid, you needed to get 100% completion to get that symbiote suit. There was no chance. I never ever unlocked it. Oh, and about those alternate suits, oh baby, let me tell you, there aren't a whole lot in the game. Yeah, the suit selection kind of sucks. You get your base suit, you get the wrestling suit, which is just the base suit without the web lines. Peter Parker, no, I mean seriously, like 2 suits in the game are just Peter Parker. One of them is the Peter Parker look that you get in the very beginning of the game with the hoodie up, and the other one is just the Peter Parker look in the game. There's Arachno Man though, which is fun and totally not weird and goofy looking, but hey, they just paid homage to that actually in Marvel Spider-Man 2 with one of the suit styles for the Last Stand costume. And of course, like I said, the symbiote suit, which again, you needed 100% completion for. Back in 2005, there weren't these easy YouTube guides that you can go and look up that showed you where every token was. You had to read up on where all of these tokens might be around the open world, and a wee little Caboose, he didn't know. So to this day, I never actually got the full completion to just unlock the symbiote suit. All in all though, it's such a lackluster suit selection, and it's crazy because when you look at like the Neversoft game from 5 years prior to when this one released, there's such a wide variety of costumes there. It makes me sad that the only 2 real alternate looks are Arachno Man and the symbiote costume. Anyways, as you delve deeper into the story of the game, you can really see how much Spider-Man they wanted to incorporate. And I mean that in the Spidey sense, that they were just trying to pull whatever villains they could that would make for a fun mission. Want to chase Beetle around the city? Let's do it. Want to chase Electro into Times Square and watch him go full blue? Hell yes. Mind you, that chase against Electro was incredibly difficult, and it made me put the controller down for like a full year as a kid before I jumped back and beat the game. I digress though. Want to fight Carnage as Venom, and it turns out that Carnage is Peter Parker? Well, that's a little weird, but let's go for it. What I'm trying to say is this game, Ultimate Spider-Man, it throws everything at you unapologetically. There are concepts of what an Ultimate Spider-Man 2 game could have been like, and it sounded awesome, but this game was made at a time where a franchise wasn't a guarantee. It was was made during a time where you were given this one game, this one shot to give everything you've got, and Treyarch delivered on a Spider-Man experience that is still, almost 20 years later, one of the best superhero games ever made. It really means so much to me and my childhood and my love for Spider-Man. And like I mentioned at the top of the video, all of these rumors are starting to circulate that we might see some of those Activision published Marvel games released back onto storefronts. I really, really hope that even if not right from the jump, Ultimate Spider-Man is on that list, that eventually it gets relisted. I'm giving Ultimate Spider-Man a 9 out of 10. A big shout out to That Boy Aqua for helping me get a very real and totally legal copy of the game. And also a big shout out to @Spidey_Pete on Twitter for helping me out with all of the older Spider-Man games. We might make a series out of this if you guys want. Let me know though, what do you think about Ultimate Spider-Man? Is it one of your favorite Spider-Man games? Is it one of your favorite superhero games? Sound off with your thoughts in the comments. I've been Caboose. I'll see you guys later.